2 minutes till broadcast. One minute till broadcast. Thirty seconds till broadcast. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin transmission.
Broadcasting from the heart of the nation, the next generation in conservative talk radio. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Oh, yes, it is. What is up, my friends? Welcome into it. What a day. My head's reeling. I'm still trying to just recap what the heck happened today. There is some bombshell breaking information today, and it is going to be a muy bueno show, might I say. I'm looking forward to it. There's plenty to cover, plenty to talk about, as usual. And it's a Wednesday, middle of the week. You see the light at the end of the tunnel, but you're going to carpe diem all over this place. That's what we do on this show each and every day. Welcome into it, as usual, broadcasting from the heart of the nation in Wichita, Kansas, on our flagship station, doing our thing across so many great radio affiliates.
Do it live!
Like we do every single day here on the show. I want to get into the Supreme Court in just a moment, but we have some big news that I know Donald Trump is giddy about. He is probably so excited right now, probably doing the Trump dance behind the scenes in the Oval Office, knowing that we're about to see some major changes right now, where the Federal Reserve could have some shakeups going on.
Say what?
I know. Right now we just wrapped up some hearings and a Senate confirmation hearing, but in a committee to go to the full Senate now of a potential replacement for Jerome Powell as chair for the Federal Reserve. That's right. And Donald Trump's been advocating for this for a long time, saying all the derogatory remarks about Jerome Powell, not knowing what he's doing and kind of losing his edge just a little bit. So in all, it's taken, the 4 years of the first Trump administration, a year of this one now, let's say 5.5 years of what?
That's right. Donald Trump did that.
That's right, which I got to admit, I've never actually sat and watched a Federal Reserve hearing on whether they choose to raise interest rates, lower interest rates. Never actually sat and listened to one of those. I did today, Snorefest, but that's Jerome Powell, so I don't know if we can make it any more sexy or not about interest rates. That's a difficult task. Look, if you can make talking about interest rates and the state of the economy a sexy thing from the Federal Reserve, then I give you major props on that one. But for those that did not see the news today,
what's trending today?
The Federal Reserve has announced that the interest rates in the nation will be remaining the same for now on.
The U.S. economy has been expanding at a solid pace. While job gains have remained low, the unemployment rate has been little changed in recent months. Inflation has moved up and is elevated, in part reflecting the recent increase in global energy prices. Today, the FOMC decided to leave our policy rate unchanged.
Wow, see that, man? That was like 15 seconds. I almost fell asleep already. So holding interest rates right now across the nation with the 3.5 to 3.75 interest rate level as of right now. However, according to the media, they say they are expecting that Federal Chair Jerome Powell has now given his final announcement and report as the chair as his term expires on May 15th. He said that he will be stepping down. However, he will still be on the board, but he will not be the chair any longer. That leads us to Congress today, where the Senate committee ended up hearing a guy by the name of Kevin Warsh, as he is the potential replacement, the choice of President Donald Trump to replace Jerome Powell as the Federal Reserve Chair. And Pocahontas, a.k.a. Elizabeth Warren, not too happy about that one.
A vote today by this committee to advance Mr. Warsh will bring the president one step closer to completing his illegal attempt to seize control of the Fed and to artificially juice the economy. Mr. Warsh.
Artificially juice the economy. I love the hypocrisy. I love the gaslighting they do. I don't know if you're aware or not. I don't have an economic degree, so I guess I'm not an expert. I'm just a commentator on the air that just likes to blow steam. But at the same time, I know a little bit. I mean, there's a line between being a super duper expert and just having common sense. If you print money and you inject it into the economy artificially, that's artificially inflating the economy. That was the Barack Obama, that was the Joe Biden plan. Is the economy slow? Just kind of like the oil prices. Oil under Biden, if you remember that, gas prices were going up just because he stopped all the drilling and the permits being approved in order to drill new oil. So what did he do? He's like, we're going to release 1 million barrels a day into the economy to keep prices low. And it didn't happen. Because, well, we consume 22 to 24 million barrels a day. Releasing 1 million barrels doesn't do a thing. All it does is just deplete our oil reserves. So it didn't really help anything. But Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Democrats, progressives, big government-ish individuals, they love the idea of, quote, artificially inflating the economy by printing a buttload of money and then injecting it into the economy, doing a bunch of government programs, handing out grants, doing highway projects, and just saying, we're just going to find ways to hire people. And we're going to do it by hiring on individuals, using taxpayer money, printing money with no basis whatsoever, and then just injecting it right into the system. Kind of like Zohran Mamdani right now, when he can't do that at a city level. You can only do that at the federal level when you can actually mint the coins and print the money. And he's like, well, we did our socialist program. Now our budget proposal is higher than the entire state of Florida's statewide budget. We're out of money. And his announcement the last day or so has been, we're going to borrow money from Albany and from other cities because they need to pay their fair share because we have to balance our budget. And we're not going to cut spending, obviously. We want a whole bunch of social programs. So we just have to find new ways to raise taxes and then take money from other cities in the surrounding area because that's what we have to do. So 6 months in, the socialist mindset of you eventually run out of other people's money. Well, you already ran out of yours and now you're sucking other people dry. That's kind of interesting. But now back to Pocahontas and interviewing Kevin Warsh as the new potential Federal Reserve Chair, who, by the way, did pass the committee in an 8-4 vote. So that does go to the full Senate floor now. And I'm assuming that'll be voted on, I don't know, tomorrow or something. I'm not sure when the exact deadline for that one is. But now saying that this guy is going to be the one artificially inflating the economy, when that's been your literal policy as the Democrat platform forever. Print a buttload of money, create a whole bunch of new government programs, do socialist takeovers, and then be like, ha, the economy's doing great. And then when it bursts and that bubble pops, it's usually a Republican in office, and they're like, oh, look at that, the economy is crap under you. That's what we're up against right now.
A vote today by this committee to advance Mr. Warsh will bring the president one step closer to completing his illegal attempt to seize control of the Fed and to artificially juice the economy. Mr. Warsh is uniquely an unfit candidate. Mr. Warsh is a Trump sock puppet.
I just disagree with everything the ranking member had to say. Senator Warren, I get that she wants to score some political points, but she is flatly wrong on every point she just tried to make.
All right, so that was Senator Tom Tillis that was responding to that one. But the anger, the fuming, and it's really because Trump got his way. Trump's winning.
And I think we're going to make it big later.
And they're not very happy about that. So, of course, Elizabeth Warren, a.k.a. Pocahontas, very angry at the fact that Kevin Warsh moving through the committee, going to the full Senate floor for confirmation, and the transition happening on May 15th with Jerome Powell getting out of office. Can we give our farewell? I think we need to give our proper farewell here on the program. Jerome Powell, Federal Reserve Chair, who has done no good, well, I can't say that, but has been no favorable friend to President Donald Trump whatsoever and has actually fought against the Trump administration on many accounts. We give you the proper voice of reason farewell on this program. And a good riddance, although he will still be on that board. All right, plenty other things to cover. We'll give you the update as soon as they confirm him officially in the Senate. Hopefully that happens. I'm assuming it'll probably be on party lines, maybe one or two, like, I don't know, Rand Paul, like, I don't like this guy, and maybe he'll vote against him, but I'm assuming we'll get the simple majority on that one. Richard Epstein will be on the program at the bottom of the hour. He is the author of the book, The Myth of Birthright Citizenship. We're going to talk about the ongoing Supreme Court hearing on the 14th Amendment, the anchor baby issue, naturalization, birthright citizenship, and the immigration reform that we have to have in this country in order to fix this, because this will never go away. And according to his book, very complicated issue, much more than what people usually talk about. So we'll look forward to that one in just a little bit. Speaking of the Supreme Court, other big bombshell news today.
What's trending today?
This one, again, making Democrats very angry.
We're all gonna die because of you!
And according to civil rights activists, they say that it was a slap in the face to the 1965 Voting Rights Act in this nation that was signed by Lyndon B. Johnson. Remember the guy that said that very racist, very derogatory towards progressives and towards the minority populations in this nation, saying that he's going to get black people to vote for Democrats for decades upon decades upon decades and generations. So, yeah, probably a good thing to repeal some of his stuff, although they say, I mean, the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, not a bad bill. I'm throwing it out there. Don't be like, Andy's racist. He wants to repeal that. No. That's not the case, but they're trying to relate it to a slap in the face to the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which is not the case. The decision today from the Supreme Court, coming out a major reversal in what they said was racial gerrymandering in the state of Louisiana, saying that one particular district is too gerrymandered to only represent one particular group of individuals, which is racial gerrymandering, which is unconstitutional, and they repealed that, allowing a more Republican redistricting in the area. Now, we've talked about on this program what gerrymandering is and what redistricting actually is, what the purpose of it is, because the whole point of having a congressional district is to represent your people the best way you can. And people, not by skin color, not by race, because at the end of the day, we're all American. Therefore, we all have our generally same interests and needs that we have as Americans, but there are different lifestyles. And it's not racial, because that's going to blow the minds of many on the other side of the aisle. It's not a racial type of conversation. It's more of a rural lifestyle, farmers, small towns, what they need there, healthcare needs, and whatever, compared to cities, inner cities, metropolitan areas. Vastly different between cities and rural communities, not based on racial communities. The fact that we want to create more of a mosaic in society as opposed to a melting pot, that's on y'all, because we should be able to get along fine in most of our needs based on where we live on the small community compared to a larger community. Those should all be the same regardless of what your skin color actually looks like, right? The other side doesn't see that. So they, of course, are going after the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and a few of the civil rights activists very angry with the decision from the Supreme Court. However, the Supreme Court, by a 6-3 ruling by the conservatives, including a black individual, by the way, has made the decision that the map is unconstitutional, gerrymandered, according to Justice Samuel Alito, along with the other 6 conservatives. The effect of the ruling may be felt strongly in the 2028 race. That had tipped to AP News, because they say the filing deadlines for this year's congressional races have already passed in the state of Louisiana. Therefore, they may change the redistricting plan moving forward. But one that's particularly only black, an only black district, is no longer allowed to be, and therefore they have to redraw some of those lines. Now, it's been taken to another level because other states, including the state of Alabama, has said, hey, if we have racial gerrymandering, that's probably not right. We have to break those up. We have to have a better representation. We don't want isolation and segregation through our congressional maps. We want it based on population of city versus rural community, which would be my redistricting. If I had the proper way to redraw lines, that's the way it would be. Ones that want to represent the cities and ones that want to represent the rural communities. Because to me, those are two completely different lifestyles, two completely different needs, and probably have a better representation at a federal level based on those types of lines, which is kind of sort of what we do. At least we're supposed to, but not what we're not what we're doing right now, really from either side of the aisle. Alabama now says they're pushing for a redistricting plan to redraw some of their lines that they claim may be potential racial gerrymandering as well, and now Democrats very angry about this one. What makes me happy about it is that I am optimistic if we're going to have this conversation about racial gerrymandering. I'm more optimistic about the Supreme Court putting a kibosh on the redistricting plan that was voted on in the state of Virginia, saying that you cannot go from a 6-5 redistrict, a 6-5 plan in map to a 10-1 map. That just doesn't quite work. And I don't know how you can come to that, saying that there's literally only one district in the state of Virginia that's going to represent Republicans. I don't see that one working out. So if they're willing to actually say some of this is not right, I'm optimistic that could be changed for the state of Virginia moving forward as well. We'll see how that case comes out. But big wins. The Federal Reserve Chair on the way out. New districts in Alabama. New districts in Louisiana. New districts in Virginia. We're moving in the right directions, my friends. This is going to be a good year.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
When America builds, the world follows. Our energy powered the 20th century. We've set the standard for generations, and we never waited for permission. But now, we're being held back. Outdated rules, endless delays. Without permitting reform, Washington's red tape is slowing us down while other nations race ahead. It doesn't have to be this way. We can clear the way for energy that's affordable, reliable, and built right here. Because what's built here is felt here. Lower costs, more jobs, stronger communities. That's what permitting reform makes possible. Energy didn't just shape our country, it powered the American dream. And with our innovation, we can lead the 21st century. Congress has a choice. Build America's energy future or risk falling behind. Tell Congress, pass permitting reform now.
Hey, did you know that you can have multiple different networks on one single smartphone? Well, with Patriot Mobile, you can. It's time for you to sign up for the Patriot Mobile primary phone plan with plans as low as $15 a month, where you can have 2 numbers and 2 networks on one single phone. And right now, if you sign up using the promo code REASON, you can get an entire month absolutely free. It's the Patriot Mobile One plan. 1 phone, 2 numbers, and 2 networks. And it's all at patriotmobile.com/reason. Again, patriotmobile.com, and use the promo code REASON. As you know, I'm always looking for a good snack, but it's hard to find good quality snacks without all the unhealthy additives. But now that problem is over. It's time to enjoy J&S Smoked Snacks. Real cuts of beef, real wood smoke, and real flavor that's crafted in small batches to keep every bag fresh. I promise you'll be addicted. And with numerous different flavors, you'll never get enough. This is not your average gas station jerky. It's J&S Smoked Snacks. Find them online at jssmokedsnacks.com and tell them I sent you.
What fuels the freedom to dream bigger? How did 2 guys in a cramped California garage reimagine the phone and put the power of the universe at our fingertips? At Americans for Prosperity, we believe greatness can happen anywhere. We just need freedom and the opportunity to make it real. But today, with a rigid system stifling progress, limiting creativity, and holding us back. That's why at AFP, we offer solutions that tackle the most critical challenges facing our country, so there's nothing standing in the way of America's next breakthrough. Because what we build today doesn't just shape the future, it defines it. How will you be defined? Take your first step today with Americans for Prosperity.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Switch today and get 1 month of service absolutely free by going to patriotmobile.com/reason.
When reason meets radio. This is the voice of reason with Andy Hooser.
You want to look at the statement from President
Anybody
Trump's
could blow
legal
up
team?
a quote and claim it says something, and that's what you're doing in a little stunt.
Secretary Hegseth, what I'm really concerned about is you purport to have unfaltering loyalty to President Trump, and yet you are continuously going...
Oh, you care a lot
I
about
reclaim my
President Trump,
time.
don't you?
You
This
are going
is a
behind
cute
his
waste
back
of your 5
and
minutes.
appointing
A
people.
huge,
I reclaim
cute
my time.
waste of your 5 minutes that
I
led
reclaim
nowhere.
my time. You are
Do not
repeatedly
pass go,
going
do not
behind the
collect
president's
gentlemen,
back.
Colorado's
time. Go ahead, Mr. Carl.
You are repeatedly going behind President Trump's back, appointing people who he has accused of lying, who the White House is
Gentleman's
accused of
time's
lying.
expired.
And you are not being honest with
the gentlelady from South Carolina, Ms.
All right, so that was a hearing with Pete Hegseth, Department of War, as they go after him for who knows what, just because they're angry. Again, I'm smelling a little bit of desperation coming from the other side right now because they're realizing they're not promoting their agenda. They thought the courts would be the line of defense against the Trump administration. They thought that their lack of filibuster supermajority Republicans had would be enough for Democrats to bully them in, and right now, they're seeing a lot of losses. We're seeing someone potentially come in to run the Federal Reserve, a little bit more favorable to the Trump administration, who, by the way, has a lot of experience. He was on the Federal Reserve Board between, I want to say, like 2006 and 2011. So he's already familiar with the way things operate there. It's not like he's a brand new green guy, according to Pocahontas, who was very angry at him. Then we have the Supreme Court just shooting down the Democrats' plan to try and jerry-rig the elections left and right by just demolishing Republicans and doing more gerrymandering than they've done before. And that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot. So, of course, they have to lash out to everybody in the cabinet. I want to tell you about my friends over at Americans for Prosperity. As you know, Congress is back in action. They're working on trying, hopefully, codifying the Trump agenda because it is a thin margin of how long we can hold back the progressives before they promote their agenda again. One of those things that we can do is reform health care and give you more options in the health care market. More options for yourself, for your family, for your business, and so much more. Go to personaloption.com. Personaloption.com. Go and check out what they have to offer, and let's promote a way to repeal Obamacare and give us more options in the healthcare industry by working with Congress and making sure that they do some major healthcare reforms and providing more options for us with personaloption.com and our friends over at Americans for Prosperity. All right, so outside of that, by the way, did you hear, so the indictment with James Comey, which I find quite interesting, the whole 8647, like, oh, I found this in the, formatted in the rocks. I don't know what it means. The former guy with the FBI that really leaked his text or had his text leak about how badly he was going to prevent Donald Trump from going into office and handling the Clinton dossier for the Russiagate information, and then all of a sudden just randomly coming across rocks in the sand that insinuated 8647. Well, he's been indicted as of yesterday, and because of that, he thinks that people pay attention to him or something, and made a video on social media trying to defend his case and saying that it's a nothing burger again.
Well, they're back. This time about a picture of seashells on a North Carolina beach a year ago. And this won't be the end of it. But nothing has changed with me. I'm still innocent. I'm still not afraid. And I still believe in the independent federal judiciary, so let's go. But it's really important that all of us remember this is not who we are as a country. This is not how the Department of Justice is supposed to be. And the good news is we get closer every day to restoring those values. Keep the faith.
Keep the faith. All right, so he feels confident. Everybody feels confident when they go into those situations, but making another video, it's very awkward. You can tell he's not used to doing stuff like that, but saying bring it on because he didn't think he does anything wrong. Now, I will admit, I don't know whether it's going to go anywhere either. I mean, 8647 with the seashells on the seashore, yeah, try and say that 3 times fast, are, I don't know if it's necessarily a direct threat to the President of the United States, certainly a derogatory remark, certainly a way to knock him a little bit, but I don't know if it's necessarily a direct threat and if it's enough to put him behind bars, but we'll see. It would be nice to de-escalate some of the political violence and really make an example of at least a couple individuals who have really walked that fine line on the high wire of wanting to make threats to Trump, but doing it in a happy-go-lucky kind of way.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Miss any part of the show? Well, don't worry. Now's your chance to go find the podcast and listen to as much of the Voice of Reason as you'd like. As the show continues to grow all across the nation with great radio affiliates, we also continue to grow as one of the top conservative podcasts, ranked 5th on the MillionPodcast.com Best 50 Conservative Leadership Podcasts in the nation, and number 1 on FeedSpot.com's 30 Best Conservative Talk Shows in the country. The show continues to grow each and every day. Just find us on any of your favorite podcasting sites at The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com.
truth, reason, and common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Yeah, welcome back into it. It is your Voice of Reason. It's a Wednesday, middle of the week. Greatest day of the entire week as we're moving through here. A lot of things going on in Congress, which finally talking some policy again after all the drama and gossipy National Enquirer type of content, which is always kind of interesting, but we got a lot more to get to. On the other hand, we're still seeing some hearings and the ongoing conversation about one issue going to the Supreme Court, the birthright citizenship, 14th Amendment, and anchor babies in the society. Yeah. Are we going to see any change in interpretation on that one? That's where I want to go to with our next guest on the show as we go to our...
Let's go to the Hooser Media Hotline.
That's right. Really happy to have on the program. He is author of the latest book, The Myth of Birthright Citizenship, what the 14th Amendment really says. Happy to have on here Mr. Richard Epstein. Richard, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for that rousing introduction.
Yeah, well, it's a great conversation. And I've always said when I first, I'm 37, I'm a millennial. When I first got into politics and this conversation came up, 20 years ago, I think it's the same for a lot of people. It just doesn't make a lot of sense how someone can be pregnant, come across the border illegally, have a child, and then say, sorry, I can't leave because now my child's a U.S. citizen, so I just have to be here for the rest of my life. Richard, just based on the basic commonsensical premise, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, it does. It's just you're saying nobody should be allowed to profit from her own wrong, and that includes profits to a child. The actual law is actually even wackier than you said. You could send the parent back home, but the child is entitled to stay. So what typically happens is the child goes home with the parent, and then since they're out of the country for a large amount of time, they have to go through some rigmarole to get back in, establish residence in the farm. But the maxim that you're talking about is obviously what everybody should be thinking about because there's too much strategic behavior. If you count the number of birthright babies that are born, this is no longer just a random occurrence. It's a systematic industry. And what you do is you have probably in the United States close to 10% of the population are citizens of another country on the birthright exception, 300,000 out of a little bit more than 3 million babies born a year in the United States. So it's as crazy as you could possibly imagine. And the great puzzle is why does everybody rally around the flag in this particular fashion? And if you start looking at the explanations, they're not very good. They are the joys of citizenship. Well, that's a good reason to get naturalized. It's not a good reason to jump the queue. And in fact, one of the tragedies of this situation is that we do have quotas on the number of people who could get in permissibly, and you have a large number of people who jump the queue, claim that they're natural-born citizens. Everybody else who plays by the rule has to go back home, has to meet all the requirements of the naturalization statutes on length of residence, good character, and the like. And so it really means that the best way to play this is to cheat. And I agree with you. Now, the Chief Justice didn't agree with you. And there's a famous legal maxim called fiat justitia ruat caelum, which means let justice be done even if the heavens fall. Well, generally, if you have a legal system that's supposed to be good, the heavens won't fall. But the Chief Justice said something as follows. He said, look, same old Constitution, different circumstances. We keep to the Constitution. Well, he scored a rare double because he was wrong on both points. It wasn't a novel situation. In 1860, 1870, and so forth, there was a mass immigration of Chinese, mainly men, mainly to work on the railroad, and there was a huge hullabaloo in response to it, and we had multiple treaties and a bunch of statutes and so forth, all which said Chinese persons coming in from abroad cannot be naturalized, period. And they certainly can't be naturalized if they haven't gotten rid of their Chinese citizenship. But the Chief Justice said, well, we've been doing this, no problem. But, of course, it is a problem. It's a problem that the Constitution also changed in the middle. One of the things that it's worth doing if you actually want to take the Constitution and just put in red ink all the clauses which have been either eliminated or transformed through judicial interpretation or various kinds of administrative actions. And it's a very large part of the docket. And one of the most important things was the original Constitution was one of enumerated powers. Federal government gets to do this, that, and the other thing that are specified. Everything is left to the states. Naturalization was made a uniform federal policy, and only federal law can control, because we don't want different states creating different federal systems. But immigration, strangely enough, was left entirely to the states, and they exercised that power to the full. sometimes in good ways, sometimes in pretty horrible ways, and so forth. But there was no question until 1885, immigration was a state authority. Kind of strange. And by the time you get to the mass immigrations coming in the late 19th century, the Supreme Court in the Chinese exclusion cases says as follows. It is inherent in the power of any sovereign to keep people out. The immigration power now belongs to the federal government. The Chief Justice did not allude to that. And what happened is, if you only have naturalization, the United States can't keep anybody out of the country. The states have to do it. And the Lord knows what happens in the District of Columbia.
Yeah.
Once they have an immigration power, then they can control everything. And by 1891, it turns out Congress passed a very comprehensive statute, basically asserting the newfound power. And so it turned out the Lord really did change on this issue, and nobody ever wanted to go back. One of the dangers of the original Constitution is that they gave too few powers to the federal government. At the time, they were worried about the preservation of states' rights, and then when they put the Constitution together, they found place after place where they had to push the envelope in order to get greater federal power, including the creation of lower federal courts, which they did, but with limited powers. And so what we do is we constantly have a Constitution, for better or for worse, undergoing these changes. And the central task of understanding the law is to figure out how these changes took place, whether we want to keep them, whether we could reverse them, and so forth. And the Chief Justice was not aware of the lengthy history on this point. So there is no good answer to your original question. This system makes no sense. So how is it justified? People come back and say, well, we've done it for a long time this way. Over and over again, if you look at the cases, this has been American law, not quite right. Since at least 1898, we're not going to change it now because of Wong Kim Ark. Now, this is a much too technical subject for casual conversation, but I think it's worth understanding.
Yeah,
what
well,
the battle was.
It is good to understand the history of all this and where we came to be, because you're right. Like you said, it's not really a cut and dry, black and white type of situation. Why do you think, Richard, that it's been so complicated on not just necessarily the 14th Amendment in this interpretation of anchor babies and the birthright citizenship, but immigration in general? Why has immigration, the topic itself, been such a complicated and difficult thing to address at a federal level?
Because originally there was no power at the federal level. And then the federal government comes in and takes it over. And then what happens under the Biden administration, what they do is they don't care. Anybody who wants to come in will help you get over the fences. And what I did actually a couple of years ago is I wrote an article and I said, when this power was taken over by the federal government, it was widely understood that they would make sure to protect our borders so that states didn't have to do so.
Right.
And now that you're not doing it, maybe the states should be allowed to step up like Greg Abbott did and to enforce the immigration laws that the federal government refuses to enforce.
That's right.
Now, this doesn't mean that they can let people in that the federal government wants to keep out, but it certainly means that the federal government is sworn to keep certain people out and refuses to do so. We should be able to do it. Well, that was a huge power gap, and so people come in, and they come in border states, and now there's a disproportionate impact. And so all the people who are far removed say, we don't mind. If you're in Texas and you have lots of people crossing illegally across your land and wrecking your crops and so forth, it's a big deal. And so what happens is they make it a national crisis. They pack these people on buses with one-way tickets, send them off to New York, and now the mayor there has to find all sorts of apartments for them to live in. Because it turns out immigration and trade are very different phenomena here in Europe, everywhere else. Buy somebody's goods, they don't vote.
Right.
You buy somebody's goods, you could consume them. You bring people over into this company, and then all of a sudden you have real problems. Have to take care of them. What about schooling? What about driver's license? What about Social Security and so forth? And we have a system which deals with legal aliens, which is no piece of cake. And then you have to have a system to deal with illegal aliens. And what you do is, since there's no clear law on it, you see basically the world's greatest flip-flop. You go from George Biden, anything goes, to Donald Trump, get the hell out of here, and I'll send you the ticket, right?
That's right.
I mean, you cannot survive in a country if you reverse a policy by 180 degrees in one day.
Right.
And that's exactly what has happened. And so that's your confusion. Now, what's the correct policy on this stuff? I think the answer is I'm in favor of immigration at a level because, in fact, it was my parents and my grandparents, actually, who got in from Austria and Russia, and if we had not, we would all perish in the pogroms back in World War II. I remind people I was born on April 17th, 1943, with Polish ancestors. April 19th was the first day of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. I was not very fit for defense at 2 days of age. And so people like that have it, but the question is who runs it and how we do it.
Right.
And the system is just riddled with contradictions. On the job side, it turns out that we are very hostile to people who come in if they take jobs from particular workers, often union workers. But at the same time, those are the guys who create more jobs by being extremely innovative. Immigrants, for the most part, have a certain gusto. They're not coming at random. At least in the old days, they weren't coming for welfare benefits. And you look at all the kinds of people who've invented great companies from which other people have benefited, and it turns out that the immigrants have a very high population of that thing. So you want to do it, but you have to control the process. You have to make sure that families are kept together in these situations. In the old days, when the Jewish ancestor came, there was an organization called HIAS, Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. Now, what did that mean? These people came off the boats, and there was a policy which said they had to go through a medical examination to get into the country, and they stayed on Ellis Island, Liberty Island today, until they cleared it. If they didn't clear it, then basically the steamship company would have to take them.
Yeah, and honestly, Richard, I hate to cut you off here, but I honestly wouldn't mind going back to an Ellis Island style type of immigration as well, which I know was popular at that time. Hang on the line. We got to take a hard break here. We'll continue this conversation when we come back around the corner. Stay here.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Switch today and get 1 month of service absolutely free by going to patriotmobile.com/reason. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left finds new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back. And that's where we can help. Head to our website at HooserReason.com. There you can find our latest blog discussing topical issues of the day. Let us know your thoughts on current events with different surveys and chat rooms. And keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Plus, when you head to the website, you can always get great deals and different offers from all of our great radio partners. Finally, if you want more of the show, you can find our podcasts with all of our great episodes and your favorite guests. And make sure to check out the latest Voice of Reason infomercials and maybe some other special content. And it's all because of you being part of the Hoosier-holic family. Let's continue to fight for conservative common sense principles together by going to HooserReason.com. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.
What fuels the freedom to dream bigger? Our country's greatest breakthroughs were born from bold ideas and the ability to take one small step forward. At Americans for Prosperity, freedom and opportunity find their defenders. Because our country's next giant leap is just around the corner. Are you ready to step up?
Hey, the live show may be almost over today, but it doesn't have to be for you. As always, enjoy the Voice of Reason with our daily podcast by finding the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser on any of your favorite podcasting sites. Just find us, subscribe, have it automatically downloaded, and listen at your convenience whenever you want to bring some more reason into your day. And a lot of people are doing it. Also, you can always find the video of the show, along with articles, additional commentary, and maybe a few sarcastic remarks by following us on our social media. Stay up to date with everything going on with the show, including upcoming guests, breaking news stories, interesting articles, and maybe some memes. Help us in the ongoing battle with censorship and shadow banning from social media by following us on the social media at Hoosier Reason on all of our social media sites. For all these social media links, podcast links, contact information, or just general information of the show, go to our website at HoosierReason.com. There you can listen live every day, read our latest monthly blog, find our radio affiliate list, or even listen to our latest infomercials and special content. Plus, you can always reach out to the program by sending me a message on social media, emailing us at HoosierMediaNetwork@gmail.com, or sending an email through our website at HoosierReason.com. Whether it's content on the show, whether it's a guest that you've liked or disliked, or whether you want to disagree with me, and disagreement's always appreciated. While you're there, make sure to sign up for our monthly newsletter. Each month you'll get the latest update on the show, updates from the Hoosier Media Network, and our latest blog discussing topical issues of the day. Finally, if you want to help support the show, become a member of our Patreon site and help us fight for the cause of truth, reason, and common sense every day, and get more of the same by becoming the ultimate Hoosier-holic. Get additional interviews that sometimes we don't always get to air on the radio. Hear our special segments or even our infomercials before anyone else, and have a chance to chat with other great Hoosier-holics from all over. By becoming a Patreon subscriber, you're not only helping the fight for conservative values, you're helping us get more content and information out through the Hoosier Media Network. Find out more information online at HoosierReason.com. Lastly, follow and support all of our partners with the show. The Voice of Reason has been growing more and more every year, and it's because of so many great partners helping us get the message out to you. From show partners to local radio affiliates in your area to streaming sites, podcasting sites, and more, we have so many supporters and listeners now than ever before, and we want to thank you. It's time to bring back common sense, and we do it right here every day with the Voice of Reason.
America's safe space for common sense. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
All right, welcome back to it. We got just a few minutes as we're wrapping things up for your Wednesday here on the program. You can always find more information on the website at HoosierReason.com, HOOSER Reason.com. We're having a great conversation with Richard Epstein right now. He is author of the book, The Myth of Birthright Citizenship. You can find that on Amazon and other places. Richard, as you mentioned, very complicated topic and a lot of history behind here to try and understand. It sounds like we just need to pass new immigration reform, a major reform, set the tone and say this is now immigration law in the nation. Obviously, politics are going to come in play here. It's going to make it very difficult for us to actually do something like that. But are you optimistic? Could we actually see that at some point?
Well, given the polarization of the United States and every position becoming more and more extreme, the prospects seem to be dimmer. Look, I mean, on immigration and pretty much everything else, the last president who had some semblance of neutrality and indifference was George W. Bush. I mean, I thought he was generally a pretty modest man. He tried to get things right. Obama was a politician from day one. Trump was a politician from day one. Biden, to the extent that he was with it, was a politician, and Trump again. So we've had basically 12 years since, or more, since 2008. This has been an office which has been occupied by people who seem to have partisan agendas rather than national agendas. And we pay a very heavy price for this. We cannot figure out what to do with war, and we can't figure out what to do with peace. Every time you want to start something, you see the political stuff. I'd give the Supreme Court a big dose of blame for this. Perhaps the single worst structural opinion was by Chief Justice Roberts, and he had a two-part test for figuring out how you determine congressional districts and legislative districts in the state. On the one hand, when it was population, you have to be well-nigh perfect, even though most people don't care if they could get greater homogeneity in a community which is 2% larger or smaller than their neighbor. And then he said there's a complete free-for-all on the way in which we shape these districts, which has led to massive gerrymandering. There are ways to cope that which have been put forward. He ignored them all. And so what do you get? You get a mid-year, mid-census reapportionment, and there's not a single one of them which is designed to get things right. It's either give me 5 more Republican votes or 5 more Democratic votes, and each side points to the other, stopping it.
Yeah.
That's something that the Supreme Court could have stopped if it had done so. But the Chief Justice on that, as he is on some of these issues, has some very weird views on certain kinds of things and is not sufficiently aware that the kinds of decisions that he makes and that the court makes with him can have catastrophic consequences for the way this country runs. The entire reapportionment system now has gone down such an ugly path because of what he did in a case called Hooser back in 2019. And of course, when you have that and you can gerrymander, then you could take in people from overseas, and the issues, do you count them in the census, right? So as to give more people. And you can see how the domestic and the foreign stuff is starting to go. Now, my book is not about all of that.
Sure.
And I want to stress it. It's just about the birthright citizenship problem,
sure,
which I think is wrong, and you have to fix it. But it's not about the whole question of everything we're doing. And the reason you write a thing the way I wrote it is if you go through all the legal ins and outs that take place over the period starting from 1790 to the modern times, you realize that even the subchapter of American history is very different. The usual view of the Equal Protection Clause by most people in the academic community and in the political community is hero worship. This is the most beautiful thing that has ever been done, and we can't construe it in any other way than to make sure that we get a perfect democratic society.
That's right.
The guys who drafted it, many of them were Southerners who'd come back to the Union, and I know this sounds awful because it is, but one of the key features of getting the 14th Amendment through was to make sure that black people and citizens would not be able to vote in federal elections.
No.
That is not a pretty thought, but it was a very accurate thought about the way this thing went. And so what happens is, if you want to, as it were, gussy this something, make it into a hero's weapon, what you have to do is to go very hard on the history and pretend that what did happen did not take place. And that's exactly the way all the briefs read. And so nobody in this case, including the government, wanted to acknowledge the very explicit racial origin of the naturalization process. And they didn't get way until after the 14th Amendment was ratified. So,
yeah, and we've definitely done a lot of reform since then, especially with the Civil Rights Act and part of this as well. So it's been a work in progress for sure. Richard, I hate to cut you off again, my friend. We are out of time. It's a great conversation. The more history we know, the better foundation we can have to understand this issue, and we can move forward trying to reform it moving forward. Is Richard Epstein, The Myth of Birthright Citizenship. Got to get you back on the show again real soon, my friend.
Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, you bet. There he goes. Richard Epstein, The Myth of Birthright Citizenship is his book. Go find it on Amazon, other places as well. Until then, though, we are out of time. We're back at it tomorrow for a pre-Friday. Until then, it's The Voice of Reason. I'm Andy Hooser. We'll see you on the radio. Bye.
For too long, Washington has said no to builders, workers, and American families, and yes to bureaucracy, delay, and special interests. Let's flip that. Say yes to building more housing, and no to government mandates that block it. Yes to permitting American energy, and no to endless red tape. Yes to putting patients in charge of healthcare, and no to letting insurance companies call the shots. Higher costs? No. An affordable America? Yes.
Miss any part of the show? Well, don't worry. Now's your chance to go find the podcast and listen to as much of the Voice of Reason as you'd like. As the show continues to grow all across the nation with great radio affiliates, we also continue to grow as one of the top conservative podcasts, ranked 5th on the MillionPodcast.com Best 50 Conservative Leadership Podcasts in the nation, and number 1 on FeedSpot.com's 30 Best Conservative Talk Shows in the country. The show continues to grow each and every day. Just find us on any of your favorite podcasting sites at The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
We've heard of surge pricing, but have you heard of surveillance pricing?